Women of Reddit. What do you think if someone has a dirty and unorganized house? This question is hard. Depends how dirty. Didn't dust their fans or scrub their baseboards? Okay, fine. Dishes in the sink? Happens sometimes. Trash in heaps everywhere? Maybe they're stretched too thin and need some help. Bugs? Okay, there's a problem. Other factors? Kids? Partner? Are they always dirty or just now? I feel like there's usually more to the story. As an example, I'm by no means a neat freak and quad. But I don't consider myself dirty. I have 2 toddlers, so it's hard to keep the house perfect all the time. But I've been treated like a slob because the backsplash behind my oven wasn't scrubbed or because my kid put a handprint on the wall that I can't get off until I paint over it. I've gotten all the judgment. They're probably either overwhelmed or struggling with their mental health. I grew up poor and our house was so gross that it was condemned when we moved out, so I always try to have compassion. My mother was married to an abusive alcoholic, working 2 jobs, had 6 kids, and was living paycheck to paycheck. Her mental health was at rock bottom. As a child, I never understood why she couldn't teach us proper cleaning habits, but now as an adult and a parent, I get it. Very few people choose to live in filth just because they're just lazy. Luckily, as an adult, keeping a clean house is super important to me. But that isn't always the case, and some people struggle to practice what they were never taught. Why do we tip based on the bill rather than the service received? I don't tip at all. Waste of money. A good restaurant owner will tell you that a big part of a server's job is sales. I'm encouraging my people to sell the nachos with the sandwich. Tip out, it's based on sales, not the amount of tips you earn. If I have to tip out 5% of my sales to the busser and host, and I get stiffed on a $100 tab, I still have to pay $5 to tip out, so I'm losing money. Because if you're spending more at a restaurant, you're generally going to be getting more food and or better service, like a server at a Michelin-rated restaurant versus at a dive bar. Not in all cases, but in most cases. More food equals more shit your server is doing. Better service equals more shit your server is doing. Therefore, more tip. It's not perfect, but it's generally solid. Edit, as always, a downvote with no rebuttal equals you're right, but I don't like it. And quat. Because it's easy math. 10%, 15%, 20%. Anyone should be able to calculate that in their head. If you want to tip a flat rate, go ahead. Just don't go to a place where you know the employees work for tips. Expect them to serve you and not tip. Because if you're spending more at a restaurant, you're generally going to be getting more food and or better service, like a server at a Michelin-rated restaurant versus at a dive bar. Not in all cases, but in most cases. More food equals more shit your server is doing. Better service equals more shit your server is doing. Therefore, more tip. It's not perfect, but it's generally solid. Edit, as always, a downvote with no rebuttal equals you're right, but I don't like it. And quat. What is the hardest thing about a relationship with a woman? Do they have to change moods 5 times an hour? I thought I struggled maintaining a steady mood throughout the day, and then I got a girlfriend and my jaw dragged on the floor. She would try to blame having her moon in Uranus. And I would say, yeah, your head is up your ass. And quat. Most of my arguments and relationships started with the thought, I'm sick and tired of having to be steady and level-headed, and this fucking twit flips her shit over the stupidest fucking shit. And quat. And another thing, exclamation mark and quat. Foreplay begins outside the bedroom. It means understanding that they get tired of being a housekeeper. You can do the dishes without being asked. You can take the garbage out without being reminded. You can fold laundry without breaking your penis. You can make breakfast a few days a week. This took me decades to figure out. I'm still working on it. But I do make great eggs and can fold things about 75% as well as she can. For me, the difficult part has been ending them. I have been in bad relationships and stayed in them hoping that they would get better. Instead, they either continued to be bad or they got worse. If I had made an ultimatum early on, then things would have either gotten better or I would have moved on. I wasted years in bad relationships. I'll never get that time back. Balancing being a singular person and a cohesive unit. Sometimes it's not as difficult, and you naturally fall into tandem. But it can be very hard to know when you're compromising together versus compromising yourself in the inevitable issues. I had peaceful, easy relationships for years that I later realized were so easy because there was no resistance from me generally losing my sense of self entirely as a very passive person. There will always be a short end of a stick and a hard choice. But it can be difficult to find that balance without making one person carry the load. How do you cope with a passing feeling of envy from a luckier/happier person? Remind myself that envy is usually rooted in admiration. And that I only feel inferior because I'm comparing myself against _their accomplishments. What I mean by the latter is that success in one area of one's life usually requires sacrifice in another area of one's life. For example, Hayao Miyazaki has made some beautiful films. But he's, more or less, been an absent father in his children's lives, no matter what it seems like from the outside. Nobody has everything. So I think it's important to focus on what you have and what you're good at without comparing yourself to other people. I used to be like this. I got so unbelievably jealous about other people's success if I wasn't doing good in life. What helped was changing my mindset. I began to appreciate and admire successful people because I started to become a successful person myself and knew how much effort and work it took to get to where I am. Now I'm extremely appreciative and respectful of those who are successful and happy. Lucky people don't exist. People who work hard in life just find themselves in situations where they're given better opportunities than others. I used to be envious when I watched people on social media and they all seemed to have a better life. Until one day, one of my colleagues posted a great book she was reading. So as I like reading, I went and bought it and read it in 3 weeks. Then I was ready to go and talk to my colleague about this book as I was really impressed. Her response to me was, "Oh, I wouldn't know. I never read that book." That's when I realized it's just pictures. And ever since I see pictures she's posting, I know deep down it's just a 1-minute snapshot of a boring day.